All right, so thank you, Heather. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak to you in this fine Albuquerque day. I'm going to talk basics of a thesaurus. This is not going to be about our implementation. You will see no Maestro software or any of the nitty-gritty stuff in my presentation. Was that a round of applause? I'm going to talk about other stuff because there's a lot more to a thesaurus implementation than working with the nice folks at Access Innovations. There's, well, I'm going to go over a lot of stuff, and we've certainly learned some lessons. I would also like to dispense up front with the notion that these things take too long. We commissioned this thesaurus in 2013. Access Innovations delivered it on time in 2013. I am standing here before you today, and it's still not on JSTOR proper. We've tested the heck out of it. We've done things in labs, which I'll show you, but it's not on JSTOR proper. And I am in no way, shape, or form embarrassed by that. And I'll explain why. But these things take time. I was sort of sensing a theme today of you know, getting a thesaurus delivered and then not using it. So our agenda, I'm going to give introductions both of myself and ITHAKA or JSTOR. We'll talk about how we got started down this path, some background on what we affectionately call JTHES, setting up an infrastructure, some things about internal advocacy, and then working with our JSTOR Labs crew and what's next. So about me, Heather actually handled this pretty well. I've got about 20 years in publishing, hence the old-timer badge. Started off working with SGML, and that's the second reference of SGML today after Margie's intro this morning. It does make me feel old. With stops at Elsevier, Silverchair, and Wolters Kluwer before ITHAKA. Dream job right now. I just passed 5 years at JSTOR. I'm a big believer in the effective use of technology, but I try not to fall in love with technologies. I think there's enough of that in the world. So as said in my intro, I'm Vice President of Content Management, responsible for production at JSTOR and Portico. Quick show of hands, folks who have heard of Portico. All right, that's more than I thought. That's cool. You two don't count. And as well as the systems that support both JSTOR and Portico. ITHAKA, not everybody knows, everyone knows JSTOR. JSTOR is actually part of an organization called ITHAKA, which is a not-for-profit organization, well, you can read, that helps the academic community use digital technologies in smart ways. JSTOR is by far the biggest name within ITHAKA. It is a digital library of mostly journals. We, a couple years ago, added books, and we have primary sources as well. It is a, as Donald Trump would say, huge archive of journal articles. It's about 63 million pages. There's some stats on JSTOR later on. A lesser-known part of ITHAKA is our S&R division. S&R is strategy and research. These are a bunch of really smart people who do surveys among academia, work with libraries on consulting arrangements, and just sort of are experts at how technology affects teaching and learning. And they're pretty cool. And then there's Portico, which is our digital preservation service. It's a dark archive. If you publish a journal and you don't want it to go away so your grandkids can have access to it, you want to be preserved in Portico. We just passed the 1 billion file mark preserved in Portico. So that's a lot of academic journals, ebooks, and lately we've had a lot of growth in digital collections. So it's just basically a big honkin' drive that's about 250 terabytes of preserved academic content. JSTOR, some facts and figures. I said, you know, about 63 million pages. That represents about 2,300 journals. We're in a lot of different countries. We're about to pass 10,000 participating institutions. It started off, journal storage was the, you know, JSTOR is short for journal storage. I mean, and it's basically, it's a scanned replica of the printed journal page. In 2016, that might seem a little antiquated, but try telling that to users who really want to get to the PDF and, you know, download it and move on with his or her day. So very popular among our users. And we also have some current journals online, and I said a couple years ago we added books. We just passed the 40,000 mark for books. These are all University Press titles, and then there's some pamphlets and gray literature and a lot of plant specimens within our primary sources group. 200,000 Facebook fans of JSTOR, 82,000 Twitter followers, and 5.3 million my JSTOR accounts. To quote Sally Field, you like me. So it's popular amongst our users. Like I said, 15 years I did in STM. I never had users like the company I work for, like we do at JSTOR, which is cool. And we don't take that lightly. We talk about it internally at JSTOR, like, well, talk about users and what would they think of something like this. So I kind of took this job 5 years ago, having a background with semantic indexing, but I was salivating at the possibility of getting JSTOR and using semantic indexing on such a wide swath of content. There's about 20 top-level browse buckets on our front door, and it's a wide variety of content that is just begging to be categorized. So we knew we wanted to get into semantic markup, and there's the classic. You can do a really intensive automated approach, and Margie's mentioned a couple of folks in that space today. Or you can go manual and have, the old joke about the 1,000 monks of metadata tagging articles. And, one of them scales really well, but is not that precise. If you have 1,000 people tagging articles constantly, you're going to get really precise results, but it doesn't scale and it's very expensive. What we liked about the Access Innovations approach was the sort of best of both worlds. The ability to have rules built, index content, have really smart people, two of whom are in the back there, look at the results and then adjust the rules on the and run it again. So we like that concept. So I'm not going to go over the benefits, but you guys probably know all of these sort of generic benefits. Why did we want to do this? But this was important to sell the idea of building a thesaurus internally. I'll talk more about that, but it was not easy. It's not an obvious. It's not an obvious sale. If you're sitting in this room, you're not really the candidate because you get it already. There are a lot of people out there that look at this stuff and go, "What? What is this thesaurus stuff?" And those people have to be convinced. So versions of this slide were sent around a lot. Details at launch. When I said we delivered, Access Innovations delivered the thesaurus summer of 2013. There were 57,000 preferred terms and 41,000 non-preferred terms. Bob joked about the scale of it at the time. He still does. I'm getting a little tired of the jokes, quite honestly. There were 18 top-level terms at the top of the browse tree. We have since added one on sustainability. So there's 19, which I'll show you in a bit. You see the other stats, but it's a massively wide breadth of content. It's not that deep. And we have future plans in that area, but by nature, it couldn't be that deep because it was so broad. But there's a lot of rules, a lot of existing thesauri were sort of cobbled together, and that's how that's how these guys built JTHES to start with. There are actually fewer preferred terms now because the metadata librarians that I'm going to talk about have worked on sort of purging and doing a lot of things like that. So we knew we had to have an infrastructure. We couldn't just sort of take delivery of this massive thing and go on our merry way. So one of the things we did very early on was appoint a thesaurus owner. She presented here a couple years ago. I don't know if you all remember Nancy Murray, who then retired. Thanks, Nancy. But then Sharon Garewal, who presented here last year, took over. So Sharon is the JSTOR thesaurus queen. We had a lovely coronation ceremony, and I believe pretty strongly in having one person that he or she must be the final arbiter of that goes, that stays, that sort of thing. So she works pretty closely. She worked closely with Bob and now Gabe on constantly adding and subtracting and maintaining the thesaurus. And so, like I said, we worked with the Access Innovation staff on maintenance. We've also been recruiting and supporting SMEs. Most recently in a sustainability thing we did, but we've also tried democracy, and there's sort of other areas where we tried to go a little bit deeper into the different branches. And then training existing metadata librarian staff. So we have 6 metadata librarians who, throughout the course of JSTOR, they do a lot of things. They work with our vendors to make sure that things are being tagged appropriately. They specify how the vendor should be doing the tagging after the articles are scanned. Rachel and Karen, sitting in the back, wave. Because they're at DHUG this year, now the entire metadata librarian staff has been to DHUG at least once. And this is probably new for them, and this has been new for them. Sharon is absolutely the lead, but if things break like we want them to, break in a good way, we're going to need a lot of help. And these guys are going to be responsible for taking different branches and maintaining it, or working with a SME on a particular area. So we want a certain base level of semantic understanding, and I think they've done a fantastic job at that. We've also worked with our internal technology staff on not only setting up the software. We run Maestro on AWS, and sort of the infrastructure is at our place, well, at Amazon's place, and understanding how to take advantage of not just the Maestro software but the results and getting them embedded into JSTOR has been tricky. So getting our internal technology team on board with this strange new thing called semantic indexing has been fun. I am a huge believer in internal advocacy, and that's been probably my biggest job so far. So initially, this is 4 years ago now, selling the concept of semantic indexing and advocating for our approach. We could have gone out and bought software that did it all at runtime. Like I said, we didn't like that approach. So then, once we decided on the approach, working with our technology staff, working with our user experience staff on the best ways to work with these great Thesaurus results, and partnering with marketing and communications about how to talk about this stuff, both internally and externally. And then I'm going to talk a bit about our JSTOR Labs group, which has done a lot to help us sort of prove the value of this stuff internally, which you'll see in a second. So, JSTOR Labs started about 2 years ago, and it is about 4 people. They're very lean. There's a director, there's a technology guy, there's a UX person, and there's sort of what do you call a female jack of all trades? Somebody who does a lot of stuff, but sort of runs around. A Jill of all trades. Thank you. And that's it. So there's 4 people that they get new ideas either themselves, or they come in from the outside, or somebody else thinks of them, and they go and they very quickly try it out. They do these 1-week development cycles in front of users. It's pretty cool to watch. They have been the biggest advocates of the JSTOR Thesaurus because while we're not on the platform yet, and actually let me take a little side ramp and talk about the platform stuff. The reason we're not on the platform yet is, some idiot commissioned the Thesaurus right before we were doing a major platform rebuild. And it says nothing about the Thesaurus because the platform rebuild basically took all the oxygen out of the room for that conversation. So when Margie said this morning, like, nothing, what was it? Nothing burns you more than someone using it. I thought she was talking about me. I looked for a look. So I've been almost apologizing to Margie the last 2 years, like, yeah, we haven't used it yet, but we're trying stuff with labs. Well, the platform project finished at the end of last year, and we still have these things called fast followers, which were, things that we didn't get done to make the deadline. So there's still a lot of stuff going on with the platform, but we're now starting to have conversations with these guys and gals, and there's some really neat stuff happening. So we're really close to actually having the Thesaurus be a part of the platform, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means for the platform. So in the meantime, we have been working with the labs crew on a couple of different pretty neat projects, and I want to show you a real quick one now. You might have seen pieces of this last year when Sharon and Ron Snyder. Ron Snyder is the technical guy from the labs team. They are our BFFs on the Thesaurus, and it's helped them do a lot of cool things, and it's helped us that they've been able to do a lot of cool things. So it's been a nice sort of relationship. The biggest biggest example of the value of the Thesaurus has been the JSTOR Sustainability Project. This is a new subject area for JSTOR. We don't have stuff that's just about sustainability. This is one of those subject areas where it's a lot of different topics and subjects that sort of smash together, and when they do, it becomes sort of a different thing. So there is a lot of new content on this site, and there's a lot of previously published on JSTOR content. But real quickly, let me just show you, and again, we've got the suggested terms drop down. These are all terms that were added to a facet within the JSTOR Thesaurus on sustainability. So we'll pull up water management, do our search, and you can see after we narrow the search down, sorry, the connection's a little slow, you see all these terms. Sorry, the mouse is a little. These terms here are all pulled directly from the Thesaurus. So if you click on one of those, it goes right to a topic page. Big deal. We're kind of all doing this. This was a big deal for us because it was the first time I was able to point to stuff internally at JSTOR that we've done, pulled content because of the way the Thesaurus interacted with it. And now I can point to this internally and say, do it on the big platform, and everybody will be happy. The labs folks then did a lot of other cool stuff, like there's some timeline stuff here. I'm not going to go into the complete demo of the sustainability site, but starting from the fact that they had Thesaurus terms associated with Article X, they were able to build on a lot of things, and it's helped a great deal sort of showcase the benefits of something like the Thesaurus. So huge for us internally to have this kind of work done, and I can now point to it and introduce the labs folks to the platform folks and say, lock them in a room so that they can talk and take advantage of the Thesaurus together. So I'm going to switch through some slides. I wasn't sure about internet connection, so I had some screen captures. And the last one, it's hard to demo because it's on a phone, but a thing called JSTOR Snap, which is, and I can have my phone if someone wants to see afterwards, but it's the ability to take a picture of a piece of text. You then press a button, it OCRs the picture of text on the fly, throws it against JSTOR, and sends you back results that were basically tagged with the source. I just did it with one of the Access Innovations handouts, and you can see it lets you review the results. It was like technology, and then the second result was about the semantic web. It works. It's still very experimental, but that's the cool thing about it. It's like it starts the juices flowing and some experimental stuff. So anyway, I have JSTOR Snap on my phone. Leads to the last thing, which is our next step. So like I said, we are this close to having it on the platform itself. We're starting to have pretty meaningful conversations about just doing the basic meat and potato stuff, like adding it to the search index. Once we have that, we now have, with the new platform and the sort of rebuild that we did, we have kind of a new development philosophy. And we have dedicated teams. We are an agile shop. We have dedicated teams, and one of them is around search and user experience. So, sorry JSTOR Labs, but these are my new BFFs because they have a very sort of standard KPI that they must increase search relevance and user activity. So I come marching in with the Thesaurus, and it's a tool for them to use. We are using a dual-track agile approach, which is you do very rapid development, take 2-3 days on something, put it out in front of a small subset of JSTOR users. If they like it, that's great, you build on it. If they don't, you haven't invested much. Putting that new development philosophy together with the Thesaurus that we've already been able to prove the value of on the sustainability portal is going to be a pretty nice combination. So next steps are get it in the search index so we can start baselining and seeing the improvements in the search on jstor.org. Working with our user experience and platform teams on exposing some of these benefits through UI features. I said before, we're admittedly a little shallow on certain topics, so we're going to need more subject matter expertise participation. And I think it will be a sort of self-perpetuating cycle. Once we're out on the platform and people start to use it, we'll get momentum, and it will make the recruitment of SMEs a lot easier. We had to get a lot of help from people on the sustainability portal because it was an area of study that we weren't that familiar with. So we want to be able to talk to the right SMEs in certain disciplines. Working with the Agile teams on platform features, and then I think the JSTOR Labs folks will keep going. I know. They're going to keep going and maybe even push the envelope even farther out. And then last but not least, we want to be able to add semantic terms to our metadata. We send metadata feeds out to web scale discovery services. So, right now these people are using our metadata and maybe some keywords slip through, but it's not really effective. I am really excited to see what happens when we are able to throw out semantic indexing terms and precisely link back to JSTOR through those feeds. So, thank you, and I will take questions.